I'm Chase Gore.
And I'm Chris Gore.
And this is the Andrews Mustang Slot-T Mafia Show, Episode 4. We want to go ahead and say thank you to the studio that's brought to you by Daniel Montoya with Monument Realty. Our backdrop here is brought to you by Nix and Nax. And this show, just to let you guys know, is not affiliated with Andrews Independent School District or Andrews High School. In Episode 4, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. We got a lot of ground to cover, and we got some special guests coming in studio. We're going to go ahead and cover last Thursday. Andrews went down to Lubbock Cooper, faced Pampa. Chris, what did you think about the scrimmage?
Yeah, fantastic scrimmage. Huge improvement from the first scrimmage against West Plains. We took it to Pampa last Thursday. Offense looked more crisp, executed better. We were by far the aggressive team, and not just the varsity. Freshman, JV, and varsity really got after Pampa on all three levels. One thing that was evident was the speed in the backfield with Olivas and Jay-Sean. It's going to be an exciting year. It was really something to build on. Offensive line improved, and they will continue to improve. I really think this is going to be a fun year. I really do. It was a great scrimmage.
Well, before we move on and get into Week 1 Kenyon Randall, I would just want to go over some highlights, stats from the scrimmage. So with the offense, with the ones, running back Leroy Mian had 8 carries for 57 yards. Fullback Merck Signs had 7 carries for 40 yards. Jay-Sean DeBose had 8 carries for 162 yards. Aiden Olivas had 2 carries for 38 yards on the first drive, and Aiden capped off the drive with a 36-yard bootleg run. Very, very nice. Passing also on the day, Olivas was 2 for 3 for 45 yards. And just a couple of more things. The defense was also very impressive. They had a lot of sacks. They had a lot of sack whistles.
Tackles for loss.
Exactly. And also they had 3. So on Pampa's first possession,
had a pick six.
They had a pick six. Raider Harvey had a pick six, probably 45, 50-yard return to the house. Jet Fisher also had a nice interception in the game. And Brady Kelly, due to all the pressure, also got him a pick as well. And then I want to go ahead and throw this in there on the scrimmage. Is with the twos. Twos look good as well. A lot of linemen moving around. They look so much better from the first scrimmage. And Adolfo Valles also, he had about a 55 or 60-yard run as well. He's playing some backup running back as a crossover. Looked very, very impressive.
Well, a lot of depth in the backfield, several backs. One thing about this offense people are going to see when the season gets started here in a couple of days, you're going to have a lot of people. You might have 3 or 4 2 or 3 yard gains up the middle, traps, things like that, and then you'll hit one. And that's kind of what we saw last Thursday up in Lubbock against Pampa.
Kind of like staying patient.
It's a process. The coaches have done a fantastic job implementing this offense, in the last few weeks. The execution and just the way the kids look coached up from the first scrimmage to the second was phenomenal. I think there's no place to go but up. I really think if we can continue to improve, especially up front on the offensive line, continue with the improvement with the execution, I really think that offense is going to be hard to stop, especially with the speed we have in the backfield. It's been a long time since we've had speed like that in the backfield. I mean, we've been spreading it out for the last 10, 20 years, and we've had a lot of good ends here over the last several years. But this is going to be something different, similar to what Monahan's did up until about 5 or 6 years ago, but a lot faster. So the sky's the limit. The potential is a lot of potential. Very exciting time of year.
All right, so week 0 of high school football this week. Andrews will be traveling to Canyon, up to play Canyon Randall. It'll be at 7 p.m. Friday night at Happy Bank Stadium. Canyon Randall this year's got a new coach, Dan Sherwood. He graduated from Amarillo High back in 2005. And he was also the former coach. He come over from Amarillo Caprock. Chris, would you like to speak on Coach Sherwood?
Well, I'm not real familiar with him other than I know he was at Caprock the last couple of years. They've traditionally been a doormat program up in the Panhandle, but he has turned it around. He did turn it around a little bit last year. I want to say they went 5-5, but they did have some decent wins. I want to say they beat Hereford. They beat Pampa, and they almost beat Canyon last year. I think they ended up maybe just that 5th spot, one out of the playoffs. But he did turn them around. I think one thing that we'll see, which you'll touch on here in a second, they're more of a true spread team, whereas last year Randall ran about 70-30, 60-40. I think they're going to be throwing a lot more this year.
Well, Canyon Randall this year returns 3 offensive and 2 defensive starters. They were 9-4 last year on the season. Had a pretty good run there in the playoffs. Also, and you're right, they were more of a traditional spread. It's going to be more probably 70 or 60% pass compared to 30 or 40% run. Players to watch on their team. They do have a really good running back. His name is Dylan Ray. And they have 2 returning offensive linemen, Riley Klink and Bryson Newman. Very, very good-looking kids.
Yeah, and, we played Randall last year here, first game, beat them 11-7. It was a heck of a ball game, defensive struggle. The difference probably was that they had to drive the 3.5 hours down here. They weren't real explosive last year. They had some big kids. Of course, they're well-coached. They're going to be well-coached. They're going to play hard. They didn't have any explosive kids last year, but, they've got hard-nosed kids. They're probably not as skill-wise as good as they were last year, which could be a good thing for our defense since we got a lot of new people kind of coming along. But it'll be a stiff test, no doubt. Like I said, Randall's always well-coached, even with the new coach this year. And they always play hard, and plus us beating them last year will be a little bit of extra incentive for them.
Well, and watching film this week, got to watch both their scrimmages, their full scrimmages. A couple things that stood out to me. They do have 2 different quarterbacks. One is more of a thrower and not really a runner. And the other one that is supposed to be the senior that's going to start, he's more of a runner, better runner than he is a thrower. Now, defense looks very, very young. They do have a very young defense. I watched an interview up there in Amarillo at the first of the month. They're talking to the coach, and they're about in the same boat as we are. Got a bunch of young kids, young, hungry kids wanting to play. So it's going to be very intriguing. And I think that maybe, just maybe, the team that can expose the younger team on the other side offensively is going to have the edge in this game.
Yeah, you never know. First game of the year, turnovers will play a big role. We hope we don't have any or have many. Penalties too. In our new offense, it's important that we stay ahead of the chains in the Slot-T deal. Cannot afford to be in 2nd and 25, 3rd and 15. This offense isn't built to convert that, so we got to keep penalties to a minimum. Certainly, regardless whether it's the first game of the year or the state championship game, you can't turn the ball over. So let's hope that that's not an issue. But sure would be nice if we could get 3 or 4 Friday night, wouldn't it?
It really would. And what we're going to do right here before we go to the next segment is we're going to go ahead and just get Chris's overall thoughts on the way he thinks the game's going to unfold. I'll give mine. And then we want to go ahead and have everybody. Why don't you go in the comments and give us your prediction and your scores, and keep it fun, keep it light, keep it clean. And we would really appreciate that. So, Chris, how do you see this game unfolding?
So, I watched Andrew's both scrimmages. I watched the tape, and the difference. Now, West Plains is a good team, and we played them toe-to-toe. They're going to surprise a lot of, well, I don't know how many people they're going to surprise, but they're going to be really good this year. The level of improvement from the first scrimmage of West Plains to Pampa was night and day. Big jump by the kids and coaches. They looked great last week. Of course, long way to go, but you can see the improvement. I think our skilled people are better. I think we've got people in certain positions on offense that can take it to the house at any time. I'm gonna, we may be laughing about this next week when we do the recap, but I think I'm going to go out and say I think we're going to win by 2 or 3 touchdowns. I really do. Canyon, good sized kids are not real fast, similar to Pampa. I think we're going to beat them 2 or 3 touchdowns. I want to stick to that. We'll see how that holds.
I'm going to go ahead and give my prediction, and I'm kind of the same way. I think you are going to have 2 offenses that are learning new offenses, young kids learning a new system. I do think that you are going to have some issues, turnovers, things of that nature on both sides of the ball. I think the difference of the game will be the skilled people that Chris was saying. So I have Andrews 28-21 is my prediction. That's the way I see it. And like you said, we might laugh at it next week, but that's what I'm feeling.
I'd like to see us go up there and rush for about 430 yards Friday night.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. And so this is another thing that we're going to do every week. In this next segment that we're going into, we're actually going to have a Gore poll, and it's going to be the 4A Division 1 Region 1 poll. There's 20 teams in Region 1 and 4A, and we're going to have a poll, top 10. Every week, the poll teams are going to move up and down depending on the results, how they do against who, what the score is. And so we're going to go ahead and start. And in our poll, we have the number one team in Region 1 and 4A is Decatur Eagles. And number 2 team that we have on this list is Wichita Falls. The third place team on this list is we have Brownwood. The number 4 team is we have Canyon Randall, ranked number 4. Sitting in the 5th position, we have Dumas Demons. Number 6, we have Canyon Eagles. Number 7, we have Lubbock Estacada Matadors. Number 8, we have Springtown Porcupines. Number 9, we have the R. Andrews Mustangs. And sitting at the number 10 position, we have the Big Spring Steers.
Yeah, you might as well put the Mustangs. Now, we can't be that much of a homer and put them number 1. And Decatur's probably heads and shoulders probably the best team in the region right now. But, obviously a game hadn't been played. A lot can happen over the season. That's fluid. That's something Chase and I do for fun. He pretty well hit it on the head about where I'd put it to start the year. As we start playing, you'll see how teams do. I know Decatur's playing Anna this week. Brownwood's playing Wiley. You've got Brownwood's playing Wiley. You've got a lot of teams that are playing. Dumas is playing at Lubbock Cooper. A lot of those teams are going to get beat week 1. And we'll reshuffle that week to week, but that's our starting Region 1 poll.
And something new that now that we're in week 0, starting the actual regular season, we're actually going to do, me and Chris are going to do a pick'ems of the teams in our district. And then every week we're going to kind of keep, we're going to do 5 of the 5 games and see who, keep a tab on it for the season and see who comes out with the best record. So, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and ask you. So, on our district teams weekly pick'em challenge, the game 1 I have is Greenwood at Estacado.
Yeah, that's an intriguing matchup. Estacado's got a lot of kids back, like we mentioned a couple of shows ago, 3 or 4 Division 1 type guys. They have those type of kids every year. The question is whether or not they can put it together. That's always their deal. They may be 12-1 or they may be 4-6. They got their second-year coach. He kind of brought them along last year, and I would expect them to be better. Greenwood lost a lot of players, have a new coach going to the spread. They're kind of a question mark. Of course, they always play hard, but, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm going to say Estacada by 2 touchdowns.
He's got Estacada by 2 touchdowns. I'm doing my upset alert. I don't know why, but I'm going to go with Greenwood in the revenge game, going down to Lubbock this year, coming out with a close, maybe a 1 to 3 point victory. Game 2, what we have is we have Shallowater traveling down to Monahans.
Yeah, Shallowater beat them last year. Monahans has that quarterback back. They had a nice little run last year in 4A Division 2. And Shallowater is always one of, if not the best team in 3A Division 1, I believe. Solid program. The games in Monahans, I'm going to go with Shallowater by 2 touchdowns. Monahans' quarterback he's a heck of a little ball player, but outside of that, I don't know if they have the horses to go toe-to-toe with Shallowater. So I'm going to go Shallowater by 2 touchdowns.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with my brother. I'm going with Shallowater, and I'm going by 20 points. All right, game 3 is we have Big Spring at Pampa.
Interesting matchup. We laid it on Pampa last week. Big Spring's a question mark. They've got a lot of kids back. Like we talked about a couple of shows ago, the McWilliams have kind of turned that around over there. They've become more competitive the last couple of years. I think Pampa beat them last year. Big Spring's got that quarterback back. That's kind of a pick 'em game. I'm going to say Big Spring by 7. They've got to go way up in the Panhandle and play up there, but I'm going to say Big Spring by 7.
I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to go ahead and say high-scoring game, and I think Big Spring by 18. All right, so we're going to go on to game 4. We have San Angelo Lakeview traveling to La Mesa.
Oh man, that's a tough one. So, traditionally, two of the weaker teams in West Texas. I think Lakeview beat them last year. I have no idea what La Mesa has. Lakeview, their kids play hard. They don't have a lot of talent normally. They get them in San Angelo, so I'm going to go with Lakeview by 21.
I got the same, Lakeview by 21. All right, now the last game we have Brownwood is traveling to Abilene Wiley.
Yeah, so Wiley beat Brownwood last year. Brownwood lost everybody on offense except for that quarterback, who's a pretty good player, but they're replacing everybody on offense. They've struggled offensively in their 2 scrimmages, hadn't scored a lot. Of course, they've got a good coaching staff, and they'll put stuff together as the season goes along. But Wiley was 10-3. I think they played in their 5A Division II regional final last year. They, when they dropped to 5A a few years ago, they tanked. And bottom fell out of their program, but they've started to turn it around. The game's in Abilene. I'm going to say Wiley by 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think Wiley's going to lay it on them.
I've got Wiley as well by 20. And so that's going to conclude the district team's weekly Pick'em Challenge. We're going to do this, something fun, throughout the season. And you can always go in the comments, and you can comment on those exact games and tell me who you think's going to win. And also, before we go into the next segment, we're going to have some interviews in the studio coming up pretty soon, and we got a surprise guest.
Surprise guest.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. But before we get into that, I want to make sure everybody, Andrew Slot-T Mafia page on Facebook, go on there, like it, share it, try to share the content, comment on it. It's for these kids. The more you comment, the more you like it, the more you share it, the more these kids' stories gets out there and things of that nature. Also, we also have a YouTube page as well, and it's Andrew's Mustang Slot-T Mafia. And you can also find us on Twitter, and it's going to be at Gore Chase, Twitter page. And you can also find me, Chase Gore, on Instagram as well. Well, I'll try to put a lot of the reels that we do and things of that nature. And a lot of this stuff it's all for the kiddos and lots of fun. And so we're going to go ahead and we're fixing to have a special guest live in the studio. All right, so we're back here and live in studio. We have one of the Andrews Mustangs, Raider Harvey. Glad to have you in the studio. Thanks for coming.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
And go ahead. Can you tell me what position are you playing this season?
I play cornerback.
Playing corner?
Yes, sir.
You looking forward to it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the questions. I'm going to start with a softball question. And tell me, who is your favorite football player of all time?
My favorite is a current player right now. He's playing for the Denver Broncos. Patrick Surtain. Yes, sir. That's my favorite right now.
Tell me a little bit about him. Tell me why you like him and describe him to me.
He's really good in press coverage, and he's really physical. And I think he's more of a taller corner, and he's got really good speed, and he likes to attack the ball. So
rangy guy.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
good
sir.
Good player. All right. We're going to go ahead and dive into the Mustang questions. And so I asking all the kids this, and I want you offense, defense, special teams, whatever you think. Give me one kid's name that's on the roster that you think is going to surprise people this season.
I think one that's going to shock and surprise people is Adolfo Valles.
Adolfo, good kid.
Yes, sir.
Good kid.
Yes, sir.
Played receiver last year as a sophomore, and now making the transition over safety. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And playing a little. He's doing the crossover.
Yes, sir.
A little bit of running back too, if we need him there.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Nice, very nice, very nice. I agree with you.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you. So, what is your personal goal? And for the team this season?
My personal goal is I want to be first team all district as a sophomore. I think it's a pretty good goal for me, and for the team, I want to make it all the way to state. I want to go all the way to state.
Some right here.
Yes, sir.
All right. And last question I have for you is, so how does it feel to actually get to play on the same team as your brother and your dad as the coach?
It's a dream come true. Me and Ranger have talked about it since we were way younger, and we've just always wanted to play together. And now we're getting the chance to, and it's it's so cool to be able to play with them and have my dad as my head coach and just have them right there with me by my side. So, yes,
Well, Raider, I think you're going to have a great season.
yes, sir. Thank you.
Raider is the gentleman we talked about in the Pamper recap that had the interception return for the touchdown. And we're glad to have you on. We know you're going to have a great season.
Sir, thank
Keep
you.
those boys playing hard,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now here in studio, the second interview, we have Big Brother, Ranger Harvey, that's here in the studio, following up on his brother. And Ranger is second-year returning starter, defensive tackle. What number are you this year?
33.
33. Big number 33. Are you ready for the season?
Yeah, it gets me really excited thinking about the first game.
And you've actually battled back from a couple of ailments and injuries.
Yeah, I had to have surgery last January, and I got cleared just a couple weeks before two-a-days started, so it was perfect timing.
Feeling good now, starting to get your legs under you and stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
Very good. We're going to go ahead and start. So you tell me, who's your favorite football player of all time?
My favorite football player of all time would have to be Lawrence Taylor. He played for my favorite football team, and he was just a really explosive, and he could do everything. He could get interceptions, take it to the house. He could go back there and sack the quarterback like 4 times a game. He was just an animal.
Tell you what, in my time, he is the most dangerous football player that I've ever seen, ever. And so
Yeah, I think he's the greatest of all time over Tom Brady.
Awesome. All right, so now we're going to jump into the Mustang questions, and I'm going to ask you the same. Offense, defense, special teams, you give me one player that you think is going to surprise people this season.
I think someone that'll surprise some people is Brady Kelly. Last year he played corner, and he didn't play as much as he's going to play this year, but I think he's going to get a lot of playing time and get better over the season and just have a great season.
To give a little insight on that, Brady Kelly last year come up midway through the season, played some corner. Now he's transitioned to outside linebacker, and in this last scrimmage, he actually had a interception. Good kid, long and rangy. Reminds me of someone that we had that graduated last year a little bit. So he kind of reminds me of Sean Parker just a little bit. Good kid, works hard, good-looking kid.
He's really strong, and he runs track. He's really fast. He's always been really fast.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask you for this season, what is your personal goal and for the team this season?
I think my personal goal is going to be to have 10 or more tackles for loss and 8 to 10 sacks on the season, depending on how many teams we play that throw the ball a lot. And my team goal, the main goal is to go win state, but really just to go undefeated and do more than any team in Andrews has ever done.
I like that. It's good attitude. And one thing that I like to, when I'm talking to a lot of the youth, you have to believe in what you're doing, and you have to believe in the process. And if you don't believe in it, you shouldn't be doing it, because you have to believe that anything's possible.
Yes, sir.
And so let me ask you something. You and your brother, y'all ever out there in practice and you're like, is he really saying that or acting like that? Yeah, has that ever happened?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot of times. I don't really talk a lot or do too much, but he'll be in the locker room or on the field just messing around a lot, and he's just completely opposite from me, so I don't know. A lot of people ask how he ended up like that and how I ended up like this.
I know the feeling, trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me. One last question. How does it feel to get to play with your brother and your dad's your coach?
It's really fun. Like Raider said, we've always talked about this since we were little, since we started falling in love with football. And ever since I was like 3 or 4 and I understood that my dad was a football coach, I've always just dreamed of playing for him and just growing in our father-son relationship by playing football together. So
That's awesome. Very awesome. Special. Very special.
a lot of people
Ranger,
don't get to do that.
we know you're going to have a good season. Keep those defensive guys, keep their minds right, keep them going.
sir.
We know you're going to have a good season. Thank you for coming on, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're with our third interview. Special guest, head coach of the Andrews Mustangs, Coach Tom Harvey. Appreciate you coming on. Good to see you. Glad to have you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Great to be here.
So we're going to go ahead and just a quick little backdrop real here. Some of you already know. It's a pretty neat little story. So when I was a sophomore and junior in high school in Andrews, Texas, played football. Coach Harvey was one of our coaches here, and now many moons later, he's getting to coach my son. That's a senior on the team. It's very cool, and appreciate it. It's not very many people can say that. So
Thank you.
so I'm going to go ahead and ask Coach Harvey the same thing. Who is your favorite football player of all time?
My favorite football player of all time, and I don't broadcast this very much because I am a Red Raider, but my favorite football player is Earl Campbell.
Earl Campbell. Earl the Pearl.
Earl the Pearl.
It's Earl Campbell. Now describe him to me. Tell me why you liked him so much.
Well, as a young kid watching, there were, Pittsburgh Steelers had Franco Harris. And here in Texas, the best running back we had was Earl Campbell, and he was a roughhouser. He ran over everybody, and he was fast. He was kind of the total package, and he was everything that a Texan wanted to be. Rough, tough, wore cowboy hat. He was a fantastic player, and I'm a Red Raider, but I enjoyed watching that guy.
Well, now that Coach Harvey mentioned Earl Campbell, just popped in my head a quick story. So the head coach that Harvey was under here in Andrews, Stapler, was at Conroe. And he said, and I asked him, I said, what's the best game you ever coached, best team you ever beat? And he said, the best job they ever did is they played Earl Campbell in high school. And he said, we shut him down. And he said that was the best player he'd ever. But that's just, that flashed in my mind, the many stories with him. And
I heard that story a few times myself.
And if I remember back in the day, he still had the old film that
he had that thing. That's right. Yep, it was worn out, but he had it.
Let's see here. So we're going to go ahead and get into our interview. So when you came here 30 years ago, did you ever imagine that you would be back here in Andrews as the head coach and getting to coach both of your boys?
No, that never. You know what? The only thing that would have been really important to me was that I wanted my kids to graduate from Andrews High School. I wanted them to always be able to say that for the rest of their life. But in there was never the thought or the dream or whatever of being the head football coach. It certainly
Just
is an honor
being here in Andrews.
Well, exactly. It was more important for me to be here than it was for me to be the head coach, if that makes sense. And I don't want to make light of the position I have. I love it, and I'm honored to be it, but it's very important for us to live in Andrews. And
so I'm going to ask you the same questions I asked your boys. How does it feel to get to coach both of them on the same team, and you get one year to do it?
I get 1 year to do it, and it worked out. It didn't have to be this way, but I'm glad it's gonna be fun. We're gonna create some memories. I've known them and all their friends. As a coach, all the kids, but you kind of know the ones that are in the grades of your kids a little better. It's an honor, and it's a privilege to get to coach them. At the same time, they have their own dreams, and I don't want them playing for me or anything else. And I think they're probably relieved that they don't play. If Raider was a little older, he would have had me as his secondary coach. But I don't coach their positions, so they're probably glad of that. I'd be a little intense sometimes.
And so this year's team, last question, Coach. So this year's team that you have in front of you, what would you say is this year's team's greatest strength that you see so far?
It'd have to be the way they feel about each other. And I think you can almost say that any year about Andrew's kids, a really tight-knit community one of the reasons I wanted to come back in the first place. But these kids love each other. It makes they want to do things together. They want to accomplish things together. They wouldn't want to go to high school anywhere else or with anybody else. They are right where they want to be. The way they feel about each other is the most special thing about coaching here in Andrews and this year as well.
Well, Coach Harvey, got a special feeling about this year. I do, and I was so happy that you decided to come on the show. And for me, it's an honor and a pleasure to get to just this is my little part of it. And we thank y'all so much for coming on. And Coach Harvey, you're gonna have a great season. I can feel it. And thank you for coming on. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, this is going to conclude episode 4 of the Andrews Mustang Slot-T Mafia Show. We're here in this beautiful studio. It's brought to you by Daniel Montoya with Monument Realty. The backdrop here is brought to you by Nix and Nax. I want to say special thanks to my co-host Chris Gore for being here, for Coach Tom Harvey for being here, his son Ranger and Raider Harvey for being here. We're pulling for you. You're going to have a great season. I can feel it. We want to make sure everybody gets down, that if you can make it to Canyon, get down there. It's going to be Andrews versus Canyon Randall Friday night at 7 o'clock. Happy Bank Stadium in Canyon, Texas. Hope to see y'all there. And if you cannot be there, you can also follow it on the radio, or you can follow my Facebook page.
105.5.
105.5 and my Facebook page, Andrews Mustang Slot-T Mafia. I'm always giving updates. And always remember, folks, it's a great day to be a Mustang.